Hi, my name is Michael, and this is my term project presentation for HCI520. It's called PokerMath. So the topic is the math of poker or profitable decisions, and really poker is just kind of the context, and the intended audience is maybe like intro to stats students or otherwise people who have had passing knowledge of things like expected value or probability, but don't really know how to apply that to real world context or stakes. And then here are also my 3 learning objectives that I structured the system on. You can see that the first 2 are simpler, sort of procedural ones, more about the execution, and the final learning objective is combining those 2 into a sort of greater conceptual understanding of the math behind poker, as well as using it to evaluate a board or hand state and make a call and fold decision. So a quick look at the actual system. Here it is. There is a left side with the different sections so you can jump around. As well as some cheat sheets here at the bottom for on-demand sort of poker knowledge if you're not already familiar. And then you can go, here is the sort of main pane where there is the teaching content and the sort of graphic, adjacent graphic help. And when you go through them, you get to this assessment page where I'm going to plug in some just random numbers here, but to show some when you check your answer, you'll get some basic error diagnosis and as well as sort of escalating hint ladder, so that you will, while it will never tell you exactly what the wrong answer is, or sorry, what you're doing wrong, it'll get closer and closer to hinting at what step you're maybe messing up on, and hopefully push you in the right direction. Back to the slideshow. And so the way I used learner-centered principles in my design, I selected 4 that I thought were maybe the most demonstrative in my system. First is segmenting and pre-training. The split sections helps split what is kind of a lot of math into sort of manageable sections. It supports sort of self-pacing and sort of self-regulating, and the cheat sheets also really help to sort of offload the maybe basic poker knowledge that you may or may not have, but gives you them on demand at any point so that you can refresh whenever you might need them. Then there is the feedback, which I think is shown really in the sort of hint ladder error diagnosis system that I showed. It keeps the learner in this productive struggle and meets them where they're at, and that way it will keep nudging them in the right direction and maybe pointing out the one step that they're getting wrong without revealing the answer. And then we have the sort of thinking and problem solving. I think this is shown by the sort of primarily in learning objective 3, which uses a higher order Bloom sort of cognitive process in evaluation. And also in the way that all of the assessments are sort of open input rather than multiple choice, requiring you do that calculation yourself and actually, do the process and give the right answer without multiple choice. And then finally, there is far transfer. The whole system, I think, is predicated on the notion of transfer, really, because it's taking this sort of probability knowledge and then trying to apply it to this poker context. Yeah. And then so in my evaluation, I used 6 questions in the pre and post, all identical for pre and post, with 2 questions per learning objective. There were distractor answers in each one that targeted common errors, and there were 5 total participants. I think 7 I invited and 2 dropped out, but all of them went through the pre and then did the sort of system and then did the post. And then there is a button to sort of export CSVs, which I used to sort of collect their pre and post data. And here are the results. There is the sort of individual participant graph that you can see shows no one got perfect scores on either the pre or the post, which would have been 6. But at least you can see that there was a consistent improvement across everyone who used the system. So that's nice to see that it works, at least in that regard. But if you look at the sort of per LO results, you can see that learning objective 1 and 2 were relatively strong as far as gain in understanding, but the third learning objective was a gap for just about everyone, and it was the most difficult. And I think that you can that's probably expected, because the first 2 are sort of procedural and that can be mastered maybe in a 15 to 30 minute session, but this final learning objective leans on a higher order Bloom process that may require more repetition or more sort of work to really grasp. And so if there's going to be any further work, I think the third learning objective and the sixth question were kind of the clear sort of was the clear gap for just about everyone. And so tackling that might include improving the worked example or maybe even adding an assessment between 2 and 3 to sort of help bridge that gap a little better between procedural and sort of conceptual. There was only 5 participants, pretty small sample size, so none of the findings can be that conclusive, really. So something like 12 participants would be a better but still sort of manageable study. And then finally, there is the sort of lack of spaced repetition. This is probably, it would have been out of scope for the class project because that's not what we're supposed to make. But it does make what can be slightly complicated of a subject difficult to absorb in a single session. And so a drill mode with procedurally generated hands might help people actually retain this long term. Thanks.